teachers I've spoken to very much welcome the pay rises, but they want to know if they're fully funded, including on costs, because if they're not, in combination with inflation, gas prices, they're going to have to lose staff to fund the pay rises.
Yeah, I mean, overall, as you know, we're putting £4.5 billion into the school funding system this coming year. That is a significantly above inflation pay rise, funding rise, and we do think it can cover the cost of pay rises and a number of other costs. I think on energy costs, absolutely recognise that it is a pressure, but it's worth bearing in mind it's less than 2% of schools' budgets. So whilst the increase is substantial, it is a smaller proportion of the school budgets. We usually talk about staffing being about 80% of school budgets. I have to say, in my area, the schools have always told me it's between 85 and 90. Yeah. So it is something which is, it is a very substantial part of the school's cost, and it's important. But we do strike the right balance in terms of giving a well-deserved pay rise, but also making sure we have something which is affordable over the long run.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Secondly, obviously schools have been working incredibly hard throughout the pandemic. They have been open. Head teachers have been doing an extraordinary job, not just in terms of education, but in terms of wider support in the community. What I'm hearing is that whilst they are still working flat out, some of the surrounding support services, whether that's CAMS, whether that's social services, MARS, local authority support services, they're still being told to work from home. They're refusing to come into school to support the schools. So the schools are still doing everything. And now I don't know whether that's local to Sheffield and Barnsley, or I suspect it's wider than that. What powers do you and the department have to encourage local authorities to get their staff back into schools?
Well, I think it's a very good question. I think absolutely recognise the issue you raise in terms of school staff. I think have gone above and beyond to make sure that schools can be open, that they can support the pupils for whom they are responsible. I think I don't necessarily have a picture that the point you're making about councils is universal, but I think it's something that certainly we would encourage councils to recognise that we are now living with COVID. We need to make sure that the support is there for schools and for education. And when it comes to the health piece, I found myself in great agreement to the speech you made the other day, where you were saying, mental health is hugely important in schools, but it's not entirely for schools to sort out. And I do think it's really important we have the CAMS and the health support to meet that. I know from my work as a constituency MP that's been a long-running challenge. But I also know that the Department of Health is prioritising expanding funding for that area. But it's vitally important that actually the support workers, whether they are speech and language therapists, whether they're mental health specialists, whether they're in other areas, are able to come into schools and support pupils and support the teachers who are there. So that's certainly something I will reach out to colleagues and see if